Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the weekly podcast where we discuss business, sports, politics, and whatever's on our mind. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me is Ted Fells. He's our business strategist extraordinaire and all-around good guy.
Good evening, all.
All right. So normally we have Britton Smith, our Renaissance man, on the line, but I'm guessing he couldn't join us now. Knowing him, it's possible he could chime in at any minute with a great question.
I mean, he's always prepared with a question when he comes on.
That's one thing. You don't know if he's going to be on or off, but when he's on, he's got a great question. He's got something to add to the show.
Absolutely.
All right. So you can follow the 30-Minute Hour on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube by just hitting the subscribe button when you're on YouTube, and you can also type in the 30-Minute Hour on each of those formats if you're looking to find us. Now, this is not your everyday podcast, and before we really get into the meat of things and start introducing our guest, wanted to talk about this past weekend, wanted to give a shout out to Mount Zion Baptist Church in Arlington, Virginia.
Right. Yeah,
they had this outstanding business expo.
Oh, yeah.
And you did a great presentation on the power of networking. I know everybody went away with some great ideas and takeaways. I was there signing a copy of my book, The Discipline of Now.
Absolutely.
It was a great time.
It was a great event. Well-attended event. And a lot of businesses were presented there, and just really glad to have an opportunity to participate.
Yeah, special shout out to Brittany Broussard. She was a guest here on the 30-Minute Hour.
Absolutely.
She led the agenda, and then we had Dan Sturdivant, who played a major role in moving that forward. That was an excellent thing. I hear someone chiming in. Should I ask?
I wonder who could that be? Ted's here.
Ted's here. Eric's here. We're on international TV and
right.
audio. Let's see. Britton, is that you?
It is.
Britton is the Renaissance man. He is the man who refuses to be pigeonholed. Britton?
Refuses to be on time.
Right.
I need to know if the spotlight was hot yet.
So you wanted the spotlight to cool down for a little bit before you actually dialed in, huh?
Absolutely.
So where you dialing in from this week, Britton?
So I'm in Mississippi this week.
Okay.
Anything
you want to share about the weekend?
Absolutely. You know what? Usually after my breaks, I'm very insightful.
Okay.
But I'll save that for a later day. Save that for a little later in the show.
All right. So now that Britton has joined us, we can really get
we can get started.
Right. Okay. Now that he's finally on there with us. Okay.
Thank you, Britton.
Yeah, thanks for being on time.
All right. No problem, everyone. Keep it.
We'll try. Okay. Again, not your everyday podcast. And another shout out I wanted to give is to all the members of the Divine Nine that are watching us, that are listening to us. We're all members, myself, you, Britton, and even our guest who we're going to introduce here shortly.
All right.
Certainly want to take time to did that shout out. We're going to do a Greek emphasis episode down the road. We're wearing paraphernalia and really in full gear.
Today is the white dress shirt episode.
Right. Hopefully, Britton got the memo.
You have the white dress shirt on, Britton in Mississippi?
Say yes.
Yes.
All right. Very good. All right. See, Britton got the memo.
That's
right. There you go.
We'll never know. Britton down in a tank top on and flip flops.
He's in the white beater.
Right.
It is 93 degrees outside. I do not have a white shirt.
Oh man.
But no, so I'm thinking about this idea of the Greeks, and it just drew me back to my experience. I don't know if I've ever discussed this on the podcast, but I pledged Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
No,
I don't know if that's ever come up on this show.
never has.
Through the Gamma Epsilon chapter, GE, the power company, light of the third D. Brittany,
I never brought it up.
I didn't bring it up either.
I know you've never brought it up.
Never will.
So I had an interesting experience. When I was initiated into the chapter, when it came to stepping, our chapter was dominant, right? And
So there were no Kappas on the yard at him.
no, there were Kappas on the yard.
Mm.
But I'm saying even within Omega Psi Phi steppers, because they were the national step champions.
Okay.
I mean, really, they won this step contest in Dallas, Texas. They were the national step champions. And I learned an interesting lesson from them. And they had things they would just preach to us. And one of the things is that they were against unhealthy competition.
Okay.
Like in that day, and I think it happens now, where you'd go to a step show and you see the step teams making bad statements about the other fraternities, dissing the other fraternities. But we were always taught not to do that. That was something they always said. It's about us. It's not about these other organizations. And just that little lesson just stayed with me. That as dominant as they were, one of the things that they would always take us away from is this thing of unhealthy competition. So inspired by that, Ted, and I can see you're really looking interested, intrigued.
This is intriguing.
Right? You don't know where I'm going with
I
this.
don't know where you're going. Riding with you though, yeah.
Right, you're right. I'm glad. Stay with me.
I'm out here now.
I'll get there. So the key is domination is better than competition. That's just one of the things that I learned from my big brothers at the time. They taught me that it's not about dissing the competition. It's about looking at yourself. And this idea of unhealthy competition, it's not just in the Greek world. You see it in corporate America, right? You have that supervisor that doesn't really want to train his second in command and teach him everything that he knows because he's afraid that this person may take his position from him. This person has now become a threat. This person is now becoming competition. We see it with entrepreneurs. We were talking about this. So you're in the IT space,
Sure.
right? So there may be somebody who is hesitant to share information with you because they feel like you've become a threat. And it becomes a competition, and that, if you win, they lose, and if they lose, you win. It's this unhealthy competition. What are your thoughts on that, just from your experience, Ted?
I think there's always a concern around competition,
Right.
And who you share information with, and just not wanting to just divulge all your secrets to how to do things, but I often share information with other companies all the time. As we were talking about the expo this weekend, I provided a lot of tips that I use in networking and establishing and building relationships, and I guess for me, as I say, what God has for you is for you, right? So I don't really worry about sharing information. I don't give all my information, but yeah, I don't mind sharing information. I think it helps.
Absolutely, good. Britton, what are your thoughts on that?
Win at all costs. Eliminate the competition, killing that with a sledgehammer, all of that. No, seriously, I often talk about the fact that I'm a huge baseball fan, and baseball is one of the sports that is known for its unwritten rules, and there's a certain way you play the game, even outside of the way just the idea of scoring runs. So there's just a certain gentlemanly, je ne sais quoi that you have to have when playing the game. And I believe that's essential in getting things done and having healthy spirited competition.
Britton, please.
Je ne sais quoi. Okay.
I don't even want to make a note because I know I'll spell that wrong. I tell you.
So, but here's the thing. Here's what I've noticed. Just even if you look at sports,
Right.
the greatest coaches, they have poured into their assistants. And so now, like if you look at like Bill Walsh in football and Bill Belichick, there's all of these assistants that trained under them that are also successful coaches.
Sure.
Because they took the time to train and develop. You know, one of my mentors, Dr. Willie Jolly, who wrote the foreword to The Discipline of Now, I remember I was just starting out, didn't know me from a can of paint. I got his business card at a networking event. I emailed him, hey, I need some tips. I'm looking to break into speaking. Within 15 minutes, he sends me this long, detailed email of all the things that I need to do. And then if I would see him somewhere, he was always reaching out to me. He didn't see me as a threat. And then it's just consistent with people that are at a high level. And so here's the big takeaway as we wrap up this first segment. I talked about domination is better than competition. I think the key is to compete with yourself. Compete with yourself. The key is to focus on being a better version of yourself, being better today than you were yesterday. And taking it back to the brothers on the yard, that's one of the things. The step practices were rigorous. We were our toughest critic. We knew that if we did everything we were supposed to do, we were going to win.
Britton, this is just really interesting, this whole... Proceed.
You look doubtful here.
No, I'm just listening.
But I think the principle carries into other areas of life. Sure. Anybody that's successful in anything, they compete with themselves. They're trying to be better than they were yesterday. And you get to the point where you dominate, and it really doesn't matter what the competition does. You get to the point, like, again, I know you love this, back to the step show thing. I'm serious. We would go to step shows, and we would say, okay, we would do our step. And after we're done, we're like, okay, who finished in second?
Who finished second?
I wonder who's going to be second. Because we put the work in. We're not focused on the competition. We're focused on us getting better. I think that's really just the big takeaway. I think we should be able to, we should be willing to share what we're doing. We should be willing to partner. We should be willing to help.
Yeah, and I think that you get better by sharing.
Yes.
Right, because you have the opportunity to kind of, I think you to really know something, you can really tell that when you're relaying that information to someone else.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So,
yes.
Give a great point from time.
Every now and then.
Every now and then.
Right. No, but that's a great point. When you're teaching something, you have to learn it at a
Sure.
deeper, more intimate level.
Absolutely.
So, all right.
Britt, did you have anything else to share on that?
I just want to see the receipts on this immaculate step team.
Right, we'll see some of those videos.
Featuring.
Right.
Right.
Now, the funny thing is, I do actually have. I'll send it to you. I'm not bragging. I mean, we were really good.
I'm not bragging, but we were really good.
We were really good, but it wasn't about the competition.
Sure.
It was really about us getting better. We were harder on ourselves, and I think that just carried that type of principle carries over to other areas of life.
So now that we finished the Omega Sci-Fi Step Show segment.
Hey, I said it was a shout out to the Greeks, right? There may be some Qs that are listening to us and watching that can relate to that story.
I'm sure.
All right. Matter of fact, Bill Parrish, who was our previous guest, was on that championship step team.
Shocking.
Okay, moving right along. On the 30-minute hour, we're ready to bring on our guest.
All right.
And she can even tell us about how she shares, and I've seen it in live action, how she's always willing to share and give you whatever information you need to be successful and not feel threatened. She resides in Washington, D.C. She's the president of SHP Enterprise, Inc., the umbrella entity for Perfect Time, SHP Coaching, Consulting, and the book publishing firm, The Grind Entrepreneur Network, Write the Book Now, SHP Media, and Dr. Sharon Speaks. She is a best-selling author and publisher, and she's the executive director of the Next in Line to Lead Aspiring Principal Leadership Academy and is a former elementary and middle school principal. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education at Winston-Salem State University, a Master of Education in Curriculum and Instruction at National Louis University Administration and Supervision, postgraduate certification at the Johns Hopkins University Educational Specialist, degree at Walden University, and a Doctorate of Education in Educational Leadership and Policy from Howard University.
She is somebody.
Absolutely. She's also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
All right.
Please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour, Dr. Sharon H. Porter.
I love it. Hello, guys. Hello, my Spring 90 fans.
All right.
Spring 90 is in the building and
Yes.
over the phone.
That's right.
All right.
Britain doesn't know anything about Spring 90.
Now, Britain wouldn't understand.
Right, that's right.
So, Dr. Sharon, again,
Yes.
welcome to the 30-minute hour. We were talking in the previous segment about sharing and networking and pooling resources. I just think from the times I've been around you, you're great at that. What are your thoughts about the whole idea of abundance and sharing your resources?
Absolutely. I truly believe in collaboration and not competition. I think one of the hosts said it best. We just get more. You learn more when you are more sharing, when you're giving. It is a give and take. So I definitely believe that. And it really absolutely bothers me when people try to hide and not share because there are people out there who do exactly that.
Yes.
So it really is all about sharing the knowledge, sharing the wealth, because we all can win, and it's more than enough for everyone.
Right. There's more than enough for everyone, for sure.
More than enough, absolutely. So it's definitely, none of us are as smart as all of us. And so when we put our heads together, we start collaborating. And I'm just sitting here listening to the camaraderie that you have with your co-host. That's phenomenal. You wouldn't get that by yourself, right?
Right.
It's absolutely phenomenal. Sharing your platform, and that's what I believe in. The business sense and education, as you noted, I'm an educator. Why reinvent the wheel? If it's working and you can tweak it to make it your own, I say go for it. Definitely.
Absolutely. Great points. So you started out, you moved here from Charlotte and came to the DC area, and you were a second grade teacher. Now, did you have this vision when you came to Washington, D.C., that you would be the president of your company and doing all the things that you're doing now?
Absolutely not. And I tell people often, it was when I moved here. I'm telling you, I'm from North Carolina. I went to school there, went to college, taught in Charlotte for a while, and decided to move to this area. And it truly was when I moved to the Washington, D.C. area that I saw all of the progressiveness. I mean, people just doing things. It motivated me to do more and be more. I would have never in my wildest dream just think that I would be doing any other stuff outside of education that I'm doing now. So absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well, that's interesting because, a lot of people, especially people that I work with what I do, they think that they have to have it all figured out, right? That they have to know each step of the journey. So I'm just curious to hear from you. Like, we have listeners that may be teaching grade school, that may be working in a cubicle. What advice would you have for them? Because they're looking to be like you, Dr. Sharon. What advice would you have for them?
So, first of all, you have to visualize what it is that you want to do. Once you realize it, and I wholeheartedly believe this, if you see it, you can certainly achieve it. And when I say see it, I mean in your mind. That's why those vision boards are so important.
Yes.
It's so ironic that, you actually fixate on something. It manifests itself. I just believe that. And I practice mindfulness now. I practice it. And if I don't see it, I know that it's probably not going to happen. And so when I have my mind set to something, I sit and I visualize it. I see me doing it. I see me saying it. I see me doing whatever it is that I see. And so I would just encourage individuals to first find out what it is that you want to do. Sometimes you don't know. You happen upon it, such as my show, the I Am Dr. Sharon show. I would have never, ever, number one, I hated speaking in front of people. I hated it. And now here I am with a show every Sunday on camera.
Wow.
And so sometimes we just fall upon that. And so I started out just like you now with podcasts, and was asked to do a show. And I was terrified, but guess what? I did it. Did it afraid, just as Lisa Nichols said. And that's what you have to do. When things scare you, that's the thing that you need to do, because that's where the growth comes, on the other side of the fear. So I would just say visualize what it is you want to do, execute it, implement it, and do it. Take action.
So visualize, execute, implement, and do it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You think long, you think wrong, and I believe that. I believe that.
So you just said something that was surprising, that you didn't like public speaking and you weren't comfortable. I would have never known that. Did you?
Hated it. Hated it. And I'm telling you, people who know me are so shocked that I'm doing what I'm doing. And I can't even really explain it. I mean, this was just 5 years ago. You would not have even caught me up talking to someone. Number one, when I first moved here, Eric, and this story is so humbling to me, because I would not really speak. I would not ask questions. I would not talk, simply because of my Southern accent. I felt ashamed. I felt like, people would look at me and like, oh, who is this country girl, basically. And it was not until I really started in the whole entrepreneur world, actually the network marketing. I have to really give credit to network marketing, because that's really where my whole entrepreneurship started. When I came here and began joined the network marketing group, and they believe in some personal development, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so it was then that I realized I have to own my own stuff, regardless of what it is. And now when I speak, when I talk, that's the first thing that I say. I'm from North Carolina, and I probably sound like it because I am. I just put it out there. Because for so many years, I've been in this area almost 20 years, and when I tell you 15 of those 20 years, I was silent because of my accent. And so it held me back. So now I'm thinking, wow, how much further would I be now had I not let that hinder me? And so I just tell people, whatever it is, get over it. Get over it. Once I stop wondering and thinking about what people are thinking and saying about me, that's when my life changed. I always say I became free. Free to do whatever I wanted to. I was bound by people's thoughts, by their actions, and by their inaction. And I broke free of that through network marketing. I really did. And so I have to credit it. That's what got me started. I actually vended, I was a vendor at a women's empowerment conference. And I was amazed by all of this power in that room. And I said to myself, I'm coming back to this conference next year, but I'm going to have my own business. And I did just that. So there you have it. I did.
I mean, that's truly inspirational. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I talk to people that say, well, yeah, Eric, I really want to speak, but I'm just not outgoing, or I'm not good at speaking. I'm not. You shot that. Yeah. You just shot that down.
I'm telling you.
That if you want to do something, you find a way to do it, and if you're scared, you just do it scared.
You do it scared. Do it afraid. Absolutely.
Do it afraid.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, because what's going to happen, it will get better. It will
Yes.
get better. You just have to go through it.
Yes.
Go through it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Practice. Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, good. So I want to talk about the different umbrella entities that you've got. So starting with the Perfect Time. Talk to us about that. Like what services do you offer? Who is the target audience?
So Perfect Time is my coaching, consulting, and book publishing firm. This is where, this is actually the first legal entity that I had was Perfect Time. I started out with coaching and consulting, actually entrepreneur startup as well as educational leadership. Once I self-published my first book, Next in Line to Lead, The Voice of the Assistant Principal, so many people, was coming to me for help and getting their book published. And that's how businesses start. You fill a gap, you fill a need, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so that's exactly what happened. I included the book publishing under that umbrella. And so right now, that's really where most of my work lies in some of the book publishing. I now have expanded so much that I have hired a book coach because I can no longer do it because of the time frame. And so I partner with a coach who actually does the book coaching while I do the actual publishing. And so right now, it is amazing. I'm getting ready to actually open a brick and mortar in Suitland, Maryland, probably in about 3 to 4 months. And I am just so excited. It's a long time coming. I've been trying to do it for close to a year now. But the final touches are being put. The paint was just finished, and next are the floors, and next we'll be moving in all of that equipment. And in this brick and mortar will be my own studio, which I'm so excited. That's where SHP Media comes in. So that will be a part of that brick and mortar for Perfect Time. So 3 to 4 months, I'll be having a business launch, and I am so excited.
Wow, that is fantastic. So hypothetically, let's say there was someone, I don't know, in studio, right, that was looking to write a book. Someone that may be sitting next to me, Dr. Sharon. They're looking to write a would your services be able to help them?
We absolutely will. And one of the things, and it's so funny because I always say your book about procrastination really speaks to my Write the Book Now, because that's really made from individuals who are procrastinating about writing the book, and that's how Write the Book Now was formed. So many people, would say, oh, I can write a book or, what have you, and never do it. And I actually have clients who still, have paid in full for their book publishing, and we're still waiting.
Oh, wow.
And so this is where, we go back. And so I first find out what's the issue. Is it a time constraint? Is it you're not sure where to start? And so that would be part of that whole coaching piece. Because what I always suggest, first of all, is just write. First of all, if you're journaling, most people already know what they want to write about. It's just, getting started, or is it the time piece? And so what I just say is just write. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about spelling. Don't worry about chapters. Just write, because you can go back and do all those things. You don't even have to have the title for the book. Because once you read it and it all comes out, a title will emerge from it if you don't have one. And so again, that goes back to just do it. Just start writing. And then you will have enough for an entire book. So I definitely say that is the easiest thing, especially if you're an entrepreneur. There is not an entrepreneur that should be without a book sharing their expertise. I just believe that. That's something as simple as they can start. And it doesn't have to be about their business, but if you're an entrepreneur, you should be writing about what your business is about. I just believe that. So yes, my services could certainly help him.
But now,
that's our friend Fred.
All right, Fred.
Fred.
not Ted, but Fred. There you go. But no, I think that's great because I could have used your services. It took me way too long to write my book, and it was like you said, it was that whole thing. If you try to write and edit at the same time.
Right, yes. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Definitely.
That's fine, fantastic. So, the Grind Entrepreneur Network. Let's talk about that.
Yes, the grind, which is for global relationships, igniting networks and development. This is my organization that focuses on educators who are trying to aspire to be entrepreneurs, basically my edupreneurs. I have a Facebook group called Edupreneurs Rock. It's just, I believe that educators are so talented, they're so multi-skilled, that they certainly could be using their skills to help themselves, basically, and not just the school district or the school where they're working. As you know, classroom teachers often find themselves looking for a part-time job, whether it's at a retail store, whether it's waitressing, doing all of these things. And I show them how they can take their skills, start their own business, and have a freedom of time without going to that second job. And so that's what the Grind Entrepreneur Network is all about, helping these educators maximize their skills, leverage what they're already doing, and making a business for themselves. And it is phenomenal. Entrepreneurs rock, and I believe that. And so that's what the Grind Entrepreneur Network is all about.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, what do you find? What's the typical time frame that one of these educators goes from, teaching or what have you, to now being in their full to being an entrepreneur?
Right, and so and it's actually while they're being the educator. So this is not advocating stop doing the classroom teaching, but this is to just help with their income.
Okay,
Anywhere
gotcha.
from 6 months to 1 year, depending on what it is, because a lot of times you will find some of these educators, they have other skills that's not even related to education. In Entrepreneurs Rock, we have a stand-up comic out of Atlanta. He is awesome and amazing. He is going around the country now doing stand-up shows.
Wow.
Also, you have artists, educators who are classroom teachers who have skills in art. They're not an art teacher, but they have skills in that. And so now, these sit and paint parties are popping up everywhere. That's another avenue. We have jewelry makers that are also educators. And then, of course, the individuals that choose to do network marketing also are included in that. So there is just a variety of things that educators can do without actually punching a clock or going, somewhere. Because, after you in the classroom all day, who feels like going to that second job from 5 to 9 or 5 to 10?
Right.
You're worn out. Most classroom teachers, they do not have, of course, employment in the summer. It is an awesome time, an opportune time to get started on that side hustle, to start making that money. I always encourage them. Then you have spring break. Then you have winter break. All of these break times are an awesome time to begin and launch their business. And so that's what I teach educators to do.
Great, great. So, Britton, I know you wanted to jump in there.
Dr. Porter, you mentioned, of course, about in the classroom and especially with things that you've seen in the classroom and then making that transition. Is there anything that you would like to see from a policy standpoint or a curriculum standpoint that would help prepare our next generation of leaders to have diversified interests or interdisciplinary skill sets?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Which is why I actually started the Next in Line to Lead Inspiring Principal Leadership Academy for 5 years in a local school district here in the Maryland area. I coordinated a leadership development program for first and second year assistant principals. And it was really around year 2 or 3 that I really felt the need and the passion to create my own leadership development program. And number one, I was receiving so many messages, inbox messages, email messages from assistant principals across the country asking how they can get into my program, this program for the school district. And I would always have to tell them, I'm sorry, this is just specifically for the assistant principals that are new to our school district. And it really just dawned on me. So again, my entrepreneur mind is like, okay, fill a need, fill the gap. And so that's why this year, actually today, July 1st, I launched the Next in Line to Lead Aspiring Principal Leadership Academy program. And I no longer do that for the school district so that I can do that for myself. And applications are made available today. And to answer your question, it's because of intentional professional development and professional learning. That's the only way we're going to reel that principal pipeline to make sure that the principals that are in these schools are equipped to handle today's schools. It's rough out there, y'all. It is rough out there. Schools are not the same as they were in years past. Our urban settings and suburban settings, in this area anyway, there are challenges. There are so many challenges. Of course, most school districts have a high population of English language learners. That's a set of problems that you have to be equipped to handle. These students are coming straight from other countries, not speaking English, especially if you're in an elementary school and some in high school. They're coming not speaking the language, but yet we are charged with educating them and charged with making sure that they achieve. That takes skill and strategy in order to help the teachers do this. And so just to answer your question, there needs to be intentional and deliberate professional development for these leaders and for these aspiring leaders. We have to equip them with the tools necessary. We can't just put them out there and think that it's going to happen through osmosis. It's going to take professional development.
Yeah, that's great. And with everything you're doing, with the coaching, with the different umbrella businesses, with the podcasts and the shows, you are an accomplished best-selling author. You've written several books. So you've touched on one of your books here earlier, but share with the listeners some of your books, who the intended audience is, and that type of thing.
Sure, absolutely. And so my specialty is the book anthology, which is when you collaborate, going back to that word collaboration, when you bring authors together and they're writing on a common theme. My second book was the class of 2017. This is where I featured graduates from high school and college, medical and PhDs and EDDs who graduated in 2017, which is the year I graduated from Howard with my doctorate. That was such a profound time for me. It was difficult. It actually was my second go round trying to receive my doctorate. The first time, my father passed right in the middle of my dissertation, and I just could not continue. I just could not. I could never get myself together. And then a few years passed by, and I decided to start all over, enrolled in Howard University. And it was a difficult time. Most people you hear talk about this whole dissertation process will let you know it is a challenge. It's really another form of hazing. And I actually wrote about it in another book, and I pledged twice.
Wow.
Both times for 3 letters. The first time DST and the second time EDD. I pledged twice, and it was truly a pledge process. And so I was moved to do the class of 2017 because I knew if I had those challenges, others who graduated also had challenges. And that's what we talked about, all the things that could have stopped us, but we didn't allow it to. And that's from high school, again, to undergrad and graduate. And that's really even how the name of my talk show came about. I am Dr. Sharon, because that was the affirmation that I had to keep saying to myself through that process while I was writing that dissertation, I am Dr. Sharon. I am Dr. Sharon. I had to say that so I would not give up, because so many times I was just thinking, do I really want to go through this? Do I really want to go through this? And so that was just that affirmation for myself that I said throughout that time. And when it was time to have my show, that's what came to me, because that's what got me through. I was determined to be Dr. Sharon. And so that's how that was born. And so the class of 2017 really shared all of that information of the trials that, the graduates went through. The next one is Women Who Lead, which is actually a series. And it shares all of women from various backgrounds, the first volume, and their journey through leadership. We have so many amazing women in this anthology, the first one. Just amazing. We have Maria Howell. You may not know the name, but she was in The Color Purple. She's been in several television shows. She's a singer. She's an actor. Just a phenomenal person, Maria Howell. She's in there. She shares her journey through the entertainment business and how hard and challenging that it is sometimes trying to make it. She was the one that sang in the soloist in The Color Purple, in the choir. So she's in that. Also, we have DeVay Campbell, who is an HR specialist in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She goes through her information. We have a mom of 5, Serena Wiggins. Her son is actually a University of Maryland basketball star, Aaron Wiggins, number 2. He's awesome. You got to check him out.
Wow.
She's in the book. Just amazing. It was 20 women. Just amazing. And just amazing. Winston-Salem State Athletic Director at the time, who was one of a few female athletic directors at the college level. She was in there, Tanya Glimp. I think she's in Virginia now, but she's part of that. So the Women Who Lead is something that's very dear to me. The second volume of Women Who Lead, which will be out in just about a month, features Latina educational leaders. So I have several Latina educators who are sharing their journey, many of them who came here as immigrants, and the challenges that they faced getting through their leadership experience. So it is amazing. That will be probably about a 5-6 part series. I have Women Who Lead in Education coming out, Women Who Lead in Law, that will be out soon, and then Women Who Lead in Politics. We'll round that up. And so women in leadership is my passion. And so that one is I hold dear to my heart. Then I have North Carolina Girl Living in a Maryland World. You know why I have that one. I love it. That was such a fun book. It is 6 of us here in Maryland that are all from North Carolina, and we share that transition, that incredibly challenging transition, because those of you who are familiar with the South and moving, you know that there are some differences occurring between here and North Carolina. And so we talk about that and how really it was a transitional period when we left North Carolina and came, as we say, to the big city. But that was a fun book. And so that's really just to pay homage to our home states and our hometowns where we are. And so it's very exciting. And so at this point, I have stopped writing for me, and now I'm just focusing on publishing others who write. And I try to break the barrier of the time constraint as well as the monetary. I make it affordable for people to get print and publish their book, because I do believe that everyone should leave a legacy in writing. That's just what I believe. So those are just a few of the books that I have published and written.
So, Dr. Sharon, you're one of those people that when you just listen to it, just makes you feel like you're just such a slacker. Like, I just feel like I feel like I'm not doing anything with my life. I'm like,
you are funny.
please tell us what an average Dr. Sharon day looks like? What time you wake up?
Well,
what you can share.
Yes. No, absolutely. I am up every morning at 3:00 a.m. That is the truth. I am up at 3. My business hours actually are 5 to 6 a.m. because again, I still work a full-time job. So from 3 to 4, I'm doing my own stuff, doing things that I need to do, whether it's some graphics or some editing, and then 5 to 6 is when I can respond to emails. I have people calling that early from 5 to 6 because around 7, I'm getting ready to go out to my full-time education job. And so I work normally until about 4 or 5, and then my evening hours are from 6 to 8 for my personal business. But that, I wake up early, but I go to bed early. I don't stay up late. By 9:30, I'm ready to shut it down. So that's really, my day. And it's so fortunate, my full-time job during the summer, we're off on Fridays. And so we're working 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday, but we have Friday off. And it actually starts this week. And so I generally will have Friday morning for business hours for publishing and coaching and things of that nature. And then the rest of the weekend, I'm preparing for my Sunday show. It's a dynamic show, by the way. I have some amazing guests on this show. And so, I do the due diligence of making sure that it's produced appropriately. So I spend most of Saturday getting ready for my Sunday show.
Wow.
That is my week, I tell you.
I'm tired. I feel like I need a nap after that.
Wow.
I'm telling you, yes. But that's why I have to go to bed, though, because I'm a early riser, absolutely.
So I'm sure you run into this with people you coach. They say, "Yeah, Dr. Sharon, I want to write a book. I just don't have the time." What is your response when someone says that to you?
Yeah. And so let me tell you, I wholeheartedly believe in Covey's time management matrix. And anybody who comes to me with that piece of it, I introduce them to Covey's time management matrix.
Yes.
And what that is basically, you have things that are urgent and things that are important. Things that are not urgent, things that are not important. There are 4 quadrants. And things that are urgent and important, those are the things that you have on your plate to do right now, right? Mm-hmm. Those things that are not urgent, but they are important, those are the things that you need to begin to have someone delegate. You need to let someone else do it, whether if you're in business, that means you're hiring an assistant or a virtual assistant, or you're giving that to someone to do, because that should not be on your plate. Things that are not urgent and not important should be deleted from your to-do list, period. And I let people go through that process, actually put down the things that they have to do. Where does it fit on that quadrant?
Yep.
And if you have a whole bunch of stuff on that not urgent, not important list, you're doing a lot of wasted time. And those things should be totally off of your calendar. Because there is time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's how you use the time that makes the difference. And so if you're using it on frivolous things, then, that's where you can make up the difference. I read somewhere things that doesn't make you happy, make you money, or make you better, you don't need to be doing. And I live by that. I live by that. And that has helped me to say no to certain things, because if it doesn't fit the category, I don't have time for it. I don't have to. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
By default.
And so you have to decide, exactly, you have to decide, is this yes worth not doing the no?
So it has to either make you happy, make you money, or make you better.
Or make you better. That's it. And if it's not one of those 3 things, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? So there is time time enough to do what you want to do. You just have to maximize the time that you have and figure out where your priority is.
So, Dr. Sharon, you just.
So I leave it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, you just helped me because the next time someone tells me they don't have time, I'm just going to play this interview.
That's right.
I want you to listen to Dr. Sharon,
That's right.
and then when we talk again, I want you to tell me if you have time or not.
That's right.
Right.
Because I'm about to go through my to-do list and see where some of this stuff falls.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, good. So,
I'm telling you, it's powerful.
yes. Britain?
I'm going through my to-do list.
I love y'all.
Oh my goodness.
She got me so inspired. Well, first of all, I still feel like a slacker because I got up at usually 6 a.m.
Right.
You know? So, and then on top of that, after listening to this, I'm gonna start evaluating people and be like, why are you here?
Right.
Right.
Right. You're not making me happy, money, or better. I'm cutting you out.
Exactly.
That is too funny.
That is.
So Eric thought he was hot stuff, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and doing his little workout stuff that he puts on Instagram. Dr. Sharon been up for 2 hours before he even get up.
The funny thing, initially I get up at 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's put me to shame. I tell you.
Not only was she up, she was in the middle of office hours.
Right. It was lunchtime, Brittany, right? It was the middle of the workday. Wow.
That is so funny.
All right. So you got us all reevaluating our schedule, Dr. Sharon. All right.
You got to do it.
So how can our listeners get in touch with you for your book services, for coaching, to bring you in to speak? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yes, the best way to get a hold of me is either my email address, which is Sharon at SharonHporter.com. You can also go to bookdrsharon.com, which is the website that will get you to a questionnaire, depending on what your needs are, because I do offer several different services, not only the book publishing, but of course the speaking, as well as live coverage and media correspondence. So I do quite a bit, but definitely Sharon at SharonHporter.com. And I can be found on all social media platforms at I am Dr. Sharon, and that's Dr. Sharon.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Well, we're about to transition to the Around the Horn segment of our show. And this is where each of us go around and leave the listeners and the viewers with a closing thought. So, Dr. Sharon, you've said a lot and you've really inspired us. Well, what's one thing that you really want to leave the listeners with to remember you by?
Yes, I would have to say my motto, Eric, keep grinding. Don't let anything stop you. Keep grinding.
Keep grinding.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Ted?
I think Dr. Sharon's about to be one of my good friends. I just need to call her because she's got so motivated. Like, Dr. Sharon, I've been having a hard time. Can you help me? Sure, Ted, just go and do it.
Now, that means you got to call during office hours.
Right. I'm sleep during those office hours. But yeah, you said so much. I mean, the whole kind of make you, what makes you happy, makes you money, makes you better. That was great. Growth comes on the other side of the fear. I mean, you just said there's so many insightful things that you said. I just appreciate you coming and sharing with our listeners.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure.
and I'll have to come up with another excuse for why I haven't written my book, but I can't say it's because of time, right?
Pretty much shot holes in that.
Shot holes all that.
All right, excellent. Britton?
We've seen a very eventful, I guess, week or so, especially in my original field of expertise, one of my many fields of expertise in the political world, with political debates, and as we start to ramp up for the election for 2020. While that's very significant, very important, I don't want people to underestimate the power of their voices at the ballot in states that have elections this year in 2019. It's great that we're looking for 2020 and we're evaluating our candidates at the top of the ticket, but one of the things that we have to encourage individuals in our circles, everywhere that we come in contact with, that there are elections, what we call off-year elections.
Yes.
And there are several states that will have off-year elections, significant races that will, and you'll see things on the ballot that affect your day-to-day, whether it's referendums on taxes, local taxes, state taxes, several different things that you'll be able to see. So for those folks in Kentucky, Louisiana, Virginia, New Jersey, there are some significant races that will be held that will determine and impact your day-to-day life. So it's great that we're noticing a lot of the folks that could have the top office, but please make sure that you're out voting and paying attention to those issues that will have an impact on your day-to-day life.
Great point, Britton. I mean, I think we've just seen it with the 2016 election that elections have consequences, and it's not just the main presidential. I think the big takeaway, I think, from everything we've experienced politically is, hey, your voice counts, and you have to get your voice heard. So thank you for sharing that, Britton. So my closing shot or closing point on this Around the Horn segment really circles back to what I was talking about earlier. This whole thing about
Not the stepping.
We're not
going
to go there again, Ted. I'll spare you
Okay, thank you.
about hearing about our glory and victory and anything like that. But this idea of the unhealthy competitions and avoiding that. And I mean, Dr. Sharon is the perfect example of someone who shares. Yeah. And all of the top level performers that I've been around.
Sharon shares.
Sharon shares. There you go. She's very willing to share, and I've been on her show and we've talked, and she's shared things with me. She's not competing. You know, she's working on she's waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, working and getting better. You know, she's doing all of those things. I mean, and she shared some great points with us on this show that I just really want to repeat here. The idea that, so if you want to know where to start, you're the second grade teacher, you feel like there's other things you want to do, you have to visualize, you have to execute, and then you want to make sure you implement. That was Dr. Sharon's words from earlier in the segment. She talked about, you need to say no. And I'm going to have to borrow this from Dr. Sharon when I'm on the road.
Right.
And quote, Dr. Sharon says,
That's right.
You need to say no to things that don't make you happy, that don't make you money, and don't make you better. Yeah. So she shared a lot with us, and she takes the time to share, and I think that's part of the reason she's so successful. So again, Dr. Sharon, thank you for appearing on the 30-Minute Hour, and please, one more time, can you share your links so people can get a hold of you in case they missed it earlier?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, my website is SharonHPorter.com. You can also reach me on my email at Sharon@SharonHPorter, as well as social media. I am Dr. Sharon, and that's Dr. Sharon. Thank you, guys. This has been an absolute awesome time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for being an awesome guest.
Much, and look forward to having you come back and join us. Good luck on the launch of the new office, and please let us know. We'll love to come by and support you.
Thank you.
All right. And again, don't forget you can follow the 30-Minute Hour podcast on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. All you have to do is type in the 30-minute hour into the search bar. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, have a great one.